as we look back on the 15th anniversary of the upcoming 15th anniversary of you know, the tragedy of 9/11, you know, you reflect on that day. A couple of things in particular, you know, I happened to be on the New Jersey Turnpike extension heading into Jersey City, coming up from a meeting down south, and observing the second plane actually hit the tower. And, you know, along the way I was, you know, listening to, I believe, Howard Stern at the time, and he immediately had cut from his normal, you know, banter and went into the fact that, you know, that initially they thought that the first hit was by a small plane. And then that was confirmed, in fact, that it was a regular airliner. And then when the second plane hit, obviously, you know, we knew we were under some type of terrorist attack. You know, police radio at the time, you know, at the proximity to downtown Jersey City and the World Trade Center, to the highest point on Montgomery Street by the old medical center, it looked at the World Trade Center was actually Jersey City. So, you know, not seeing those towers, you know, standing was, to this day, is really kind of a, you know, a lesson that, you know, you can't take anything for granted. That morning, you know, by 11 o'clock, we had members of the police and fire departments on scene over there assisting. Another thing that sticks out in my mind is that when their communications tower went down, which was located in one of the World Trade Center buildings, a lot of their communications, especially cellular communications, kicked back to our communications room, and we were actually hearing a lot of the calls coming in from folks who were trapped in the buildings, you know, advising, you know, seeking help and saying goodbye to their loved ones and things like that stay with you forever. We were actually assigned over there on the second day, and we worked with, you know, establishing a forward command, because initially when the Emergency Management Operations Center was located in one of the towers, went down, the incident command system really was fragmented. So it was our position to go over and assist at the request of the FDNY and the NYPD to assist with whatever operations we could. We assisted in setting up a forward command in a bar that was located down in the ferry slip there. And, you know, everybody was just trying to do everything they could at the time just to try and, you know, help in any way possible. On the Jersey City side, there was a tremendous response from volunteers, and, you know, just kind of wrapping your arms around that and getting people programmed and aware of what they were going to see when they, if in fact they actually went over there, was a whole other issue. At some point, myself and one of my partners were doing security in the corner of West and Vesey, and, you know, just looking around and seeing the total devastation, it's something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. And you know, in this day and age, you say, how can this happen? But I lost, you know, quite a few good friends on the Port Authority, Police Department, guys I had worked with over the years. And you know, as we approach the 15th anniversary, it's something that I think we all have to be cognizant to, and never forget the sacrifices that we made, but not only by our first responders, you know, 382 firefighters in New York City and 37 Port Authority officers, plus the NYPD officers, and the you know, the poor innocent folks in general, who basically all they did that day was go to work and you know, never see their loved ones again. But I think we you know, we have to maintain vigilance. We have to be concerned as to the potential in the world we live in now for something like this occurring again, which I hope none of us ever have to see. And at the end of the day, I says, you know, we all have to pray to God that you know, we're vigilant enough, and you know, hopefully we have you know, the foresight to prepare and prevent these events from ever happening again.
Captain Joe Shastay of the Jersey City Fire Department. My 9/11 story is basically, my wife used to drop off my son, who was 3½, every morning after work to me in Jersey City, because she taught here. And I would take him down to my boat, which is where the sandbar is. A lot of people know what it is, Marin and Grand Street. And as we drove into the marina, it was on the radio, and we could see the smoke. They said a small plane had hit the towers. So we didn't think much of it, to be honest with you. So I had 2 scanners with me, I put one on, I put it in my houseboat's bathroom with a voice-activated tape recorder, because I'm a little bit of a buff. And carried another one around, and as everyone knows, it just got worse and worse. And one part of it was, I was inside with my son, he was playing, and we heard the crowd like hush, and we went outside, we said, what happened, what happened? And somebody said, the top of the building fell off. So we had to walk down the dock a little ways, and we looked up, and you could just see like smoke, and you couldn't really see the top of the tower. And that was obviously the first tower had come down. But we weren't even sure what happened. So back inside, trying to keep an eye on my 3.5-year-old. And then over the radio, I could hear the New York Fire Department's Marine 1 unit say, dispatch, second tower is starting to lean. So I thought to myself, I said, is there something I can do, or is it just gonna watch? I walked out with my son on my shoulders, and the tower came down. And I said to my kid, a lot of guys, a lot of farmers just got hurt pretty bad. And it's a tough story. Anyway, fast forward, I run a fishing boat out in the harbor, and going by that tower.
Dispatch Marine 1 was at the Bergen City trains.
There's Marine 1, Jersey City's one. Driving by those towers, what were the towers, it took about 1.5 years to get used to them not being there. I would always turn around and look, and I'd say, yeah, they're gone. And then the good day was, when July 4th they broke ground and started the new one, the Freedom Tower. And I don't know if it was 1 year later or months later, there it was. And felt like it was defiance, but it was good. It was a good day. That's it.
Hey there, Walter Milne, New Jersey City Fire Department. Been on the fire department for 32 years. Coming on our 15th anniversary of 9/11. Day I was there, I was working for the New Jersey Task Force 1. We were the first USAR team there. The destruction that we got to see when we were there, we watched building number 7, come down. So, watching that skyscraper coming down was really weird. Most of the things I remember was the amount of pieces of bodies that we were finding, and the amount of metal, no concrete, no dust around. It was just small pockets of concrete, nothing really big. Just a lot of steel, a lot of destruction. Watching people work together for a change. People from different departments all coming together, working together as one. The task force coming in, then once we started getting FEMA teams coming in, everybody started working together, everybody got assignments. Stuff that we got to see was unbelievable. You just can never get that out of your mind. And one of the things is, working there for 10 days straight, it gave me a lot of opportunity to do a lot of use my skills of what I've trained for years and years and years. And, too bad there wasn't too many people that you could rescue and save. But we did bring closure to other people's families, when we found, bodies and stuff like that. Other than that, it's still there, I get phone calls from people like, hey, your uncle's there, your cousin's there, so, what do you tell them? You really can't tell them nothing, because looking at the amount of destruction, you weren't going to find them in one piece or find them at all until years down the road when they do, when they do all their tests and everything. So, just watching everything being destroyed, and, when I was a kid, I watched it being built, and, watching them being destroyed and coming down in a couple block radius was really an amazing feat that it didn't go other ways like it was supposed to. But other than that, I still think about it. Everybody thinks about it. It's always going to be etched in our minds. Jersey City firefighters working with the New York City firefighters, rescue guys working with the rescue guys. You had good friends there. You knew a lot of the firemen from being close by going to their training academies and stuff, and see their pictures of them missing, and you just could never get over that. Other than that, that's it's still there, it's still in your mind. It's always be in my mind. And when I go to 9/11 Memorial Site, when we go downstairs and see all the artifacts that they found, it's really brings you back again. That's about it. That's all I gotta say.
September 11, 2001. I remember getting off of work, and we were at a fire all night long, and we were pretty tired, and I had to stop someplace at the end of my shift to get an auto part, and it was down on 440 in Jersey City, and I go in, the part's not there, and I walk out, and I see everybody lined up on the back of the auto places looking towards the New York skyline, and say to them, what happened? And they said a plane hit the Trade Center. So I thought maybe it was a small commuter plane, and I look up, and immediately I see a column of smoke, and it's huge, and I follow it back to the Trade Center, and I realized at that moment that this is a big deal. This is not a small plane. This is a real big deal. I immediately got into my truck, started my truck, and I started to head south. I didn't respond with the Jersey City Fire Department. I responded as a member of the Urban Search and Rescue Team, the New Jersey Task Force 1, which is based out of Lakehurst, New Jersey. So I put on the radio reports, and I hear that this is now not an aviation accident, this is an act of terrorism. And all of the training and all of that you have in you is now, you know you're going to be using it. You know you're going to work. And you're not sure if you're coming home. So I'm driving home, and I have to pick up my stuff to report to Lakehurst with my command, and it gets worse. Second plane, I'm saying goodbye to my wife. I go home, I say goodbye to my wife. I stop at the school, and oddly enough, I have an argument with the school to get my daughter out of school. The officials say she's going to be safe here. I says, yeah, I know she's safe, but I need to bring her home. No, we're not going to get her. No, you don't understand. You are going to get her, because I have to see her, because I may not see her again. So I hugged and kissed my family. I went down, and I was very emotional. I'm very upset and very, very worked up, but I'm calm because I was trained well. We go, we get our marching orders, we start responding, and I take my personal truck to Ground Zero. Long story short, we had to load our equipment up. We were a young team, didn't have a lot of ground transport, so I take my red pickup truck, and we carted all of the materials and equipment and manpower that we needed to get and operate up in Lower Manhattan. So we get there, and we get our assignments. We're based at the Javits Center. I unload the equipment, and my command tells me that they need to get the first team of dogs and the handlers up to Ground Zero to start a search and rescue operation. So I do that in my truck, and I drop them off. I get to Vesey Street, and I see a lot of other members from the New Jersey Task Force 1 assisting New York Task Force 1, police and fire, and everybody assisting setting up their base of operations. And I deploy the animals and the handlers, and they go into their mission. So and I'm standing there with my partner, and I look up, and it's a scene that you can never ever describe adequately. It's horror, it's fear, it's everything that you could possibly imagine wrong with this world, embroiled in one scene. And I had this overwhelming sense that I'm not going to live past this night. This is my night, and I took my breath away. All I knew is I had to go. I shook my head. I looked at my partner. I think he had the same thought. And me and Mike, we got back in the truck and said, we got work to do. And I broke down what I did into the very simplest form of a task. And I started moving stuff, and and it settled me down. I had something to do. I was making progress. We were making progress as a team. I wasn't doing search and rescue operations, but I was setting the equipment up for the teams that would be. And I was busy, and I was making my contribution. And with some great men and women of the Urban Search and Rescue Team of New Jersey, and seeing members of the Jersey City Police and Fire and EMS coming to Ground Zero, because we were based right on the edge of the Ground Zero crater, seeing them, and I was comforted. And one day turned into 2 days, and it was more time had elapsed since the time I felt I was going to die, and I got confidence, and we survived. And we didn't save anybody. We didn't do what we were trained to do. Nobody was there. it took a long time to come to grips with that there was nobody to save. It's still to this day very, very hard. But, you know, 15 years later, it's still very, very close to my heart. I do have illnesses that I've developed and I'm being treated for from that day and that the 10 days that I was there. But if I had a choice to do it again today, right now, something happened, I would grab my stuff, I would grab my equipment, take all the training, and I would go with my group of people and I would do my job the way I did it 15 years ago, the same way. You know, it's not about me, it's about saving the people around us, keeping each other safe. What we do, people count on us. You know, when people say, what do we make? You know, I make a difference. And it's very important for me. I will never forget the images of that day, and I will never forget the people that I was with. And I will always, as my job brings me to bad places, I will always perform my functions, whatever they're asked to be at that time, to the highest of my ability, and to make sure that people who I go there with come home alive, and the people who are in trouble when I get there have a good chance of survival. Thanks.
Well, my name is Captain James Nickerson, Jersey City Fire Department. I'm assigned to Engine 15, Group C. I'm here to talk about September 11th. It's been over 15 years since we've had this event that's changed America, some of my experiences through that time I'd like to go over with you people to make you understand our perspective of what happened that day. Being off that day, I was initially doing a side job on my own and initially heard of an attack on the World Trade Center, something I grew up as a child seeing from my window each and every day, looking how it grew larger and higher, and then to hear that there was an attack on America that day was devastating, shocking, unbelievable. Couldn't believe it when being told that a collapse of a building that size was unimaginable. I did not expect it. I didn't believe it. Couldn't believe something that big, that strong could ever fail. And I tried to call my wife, which was only approximately about 30 miles from where I was initially from the initial call. I couldn't get in touch with her because of the radio or the cell towers weren't working. So I contacted Jersey Dispatch and asked them if they needed me to respond to Jersey City at least, because I knew that Manhattan was one of our districts that we would respond to. They said to come in. As I approached my house at the time, which was Engine 17, Ladder 11, I happened to see Ladder 11 proceeding up the corner. I just missed them by a few minutes as they were going up the street to go into Manhattan. I went to Engine 15's quarters where the whole battalion was gathering to be a group unit and responding to all calls for possible attacks throughout Jersey City or neighboring counties. It was very hard to see something so close and seeing the sky from a distance and just seeing one big large plume of smoke, which I thought was a cloud initially, but it just continues for miles upon miles of this white cloud, which, you know, signaled to us that there's something devastating happened. As I proceeded down to Engine 15, all the men and people who were assigned to Group, I believe it was B, was there. We were watching over and over the replay of the towers collapsing and all the news media giving their perspective of what was happening. I just happened to say this was a day that was going to change forever. Today was a new world, a new way of looking at things, and it's happening still today. And nothing has changed, it's only gotten worse, in my opinion. Hopefully we can resolve those issues But I happened to work the entire evening until we were relieved late in the evening. So I decided to take a ride. I was only a few miles from Ground Zero. I decided to take my own personal car down to the waterfront. I had to see this firsthand. I couldn't go back home without looking what everybody in the world was saying, and being only a few miles from it, I had to go see it firsthand. I happened to go down to the waterfront, and I saw hundreds upon hundreds of people gathering water, supplies, and other items that we could bring over to the World Trade Center area for the people who were working over there trying to recover or rescue any potential survivors. As we walked down there, I was greeted by the mayor and other officials from Jersey City. And the strange thing is that when I went down there, people were, congratulating or, giving me respect, something that I didn't feel comfortable with. So I got down to Ground Zero, or not Ground Zero, but down to the waterfront. We got down to the waterfront, and one of the supervisors on the scene was asking the people who were shipping this stuff over there, why is it taking so long? That there were more people on the Jersey City side of the river than that was putting on the supplies, but there were only a few amount of people on the Manhattan side to take off the supplies. So I raised my hand and says, "You have a volunteer." So I actually got to go over there that evening and assist. What I thought was the only thing I could do was bring supplies over. I met a gentleman who I, to this day, don't know, but he said his brother was in the World Trade Center also, and wasn't quite sure what happened to his brother. We went back a few times, back and forth, and during that time of doing it, I got the opportunity to get off on Ground Zero after dropping our supplies. We happened to walk through the area of Ground Zero, walking through dust from sheetrock and all debris. I made a comment to the gentleman and said, "This is controlled chaos." People knew what they were doing, but it was really hard to know how to resolve these issues. Seeing this much devastation, seeing so many buildings laying on its side was unimaginable in my mind. It was hard to picture what I was seeing and trying to put into words. I happened to go, and I decided the only thing I could do, because I was basically an individual on my own, I decided to grab up a few boxes of food, and I just started walking on the pile and handing, sandwiches to other individuals and saying, "I know you can't leave here right now. I know you're busy, but you need to eat." So that's the only thing I could really do in that time frame, was just hand out sandwiches. My little small part on September 11th was just to make sure that these guys had the nourishment to continue to doing what they were doing. I eventually did go down later on in the week to assist again and do my small little part while getting into the Ground Zero and on the rubble, as they called it. I don't consider myself any type of hero. It was just our job. It's the things we do. It's the things that I like to do, is to help people. And any little small part that I can do, that's what I do. I just try to do my small part. One little small part can make a big difference in somebody's life.
Hi, my name is Anthony Della Rosa, Deputy Chief, Jersey City Fire Department. My experience at 9/11 was that morning. We got off, and I was going to work my second job like any other day. I took a ride down to Tinton Falls, New Jersey, and as I got there on the radio, I was reported of a plane crash into the World Trade Center. And just thinking, as I got out of the car, I looked up and the sky was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. So how could something like this happen? And shortly after that, my other friend had gotten there, Steve Jaffe, he's a captain on the job, along with Danny Hoger, also a captain on the job, and we put it on the television where we were working. We were getting ready to paint the home, and another plane flew into the building. And at that point, we realized, what was really going on here, that we were in fact under attack. So we knew we had to do something. just was the nature of us. And what we did was we left the house, got in our cars, we made some phone calls to the state police, and we reported to, we went to Red Bank, to the state police barracks, and they made a phone call and told us to go down to Sandy Hook. On the way to Sandy Hook, we stopped at a diner, we picked up donuts and things, thinking we were going to bring some food to the scene. You know, the buildings had not yet collapsed, and we had found out they had collapsed at that point. So we went down to Sandy Hook, and we were told to meet a state police boat down there, and they were going to take us over to Manhattan to help out in the process. And as we pulled up at Sandy Hook, I had a white unmarked van, and I was met by 2 or 3 state police with rifles pointed at my van. At that point, I knew things had changed around here. That after this attack on the World Trade Center, things would never be the same here again, and they really haven't. So they escorted us down to the end of the pier where the state police boat was docked, and I had already set the concrete barricades up so you couldn't drive in anywhere but back and forth. And they brought us in, they put us on the boat, and as we took off from Sandy Hook, I remember, you know, we were looking and you could see the smoke and the buildings were gone. And it was just a horrific scene. And I remember going under the Verrazano Bridge, and to the right of us was a giant cargo ship. And the thing stood almost as high as the bridge was. And all I could think was, seeing the buildings down, that there could be a bomb on this boat. So the mentality of the way you thought from that moment forward was changed forever. So as we came under the bridge, they asked us, where do you want to go? Do you want to go right to Manhattan? We said, no, bring us to Jersey City, we'll get our gear, we'll get back on the boat, and we'll go over to Manhattan. So we got to Jersey City, we got off the boat, we went and got our gear, and then we were not allowed to leave. We had to stay here to help in the process here. They expected thousands of people to be coming over by boat. They're all going to have to be decontaminated and sent to local hospitals. So we went down to Liberty Park, to the old railroad station, and we helped set up an area where we would decon everyone that came over. We were taking down railings so the boats could get in a lot easier, and no one ever came. Not one single patient came to that location. They had all been taken to a different area closer to Weehawken or Hoboken, but we never saw a single patient come that way, which wasn't a good thing, because it just meant there were more people that were killed and a lot less to help. But we did our job. We stayed there, and then during the day we helped load water onto ships and tried to sneak onto the ships to get over to Manhattan to help our brothers and civilians out over there, but we were told we were to stay here and help out here, and that's what we did. But as soon as we were released that night, the next morning we were on a boat over to Manhattan to help in the recovery. And we did everything we possibly could, but you know, we tried, but unfortunately there was no one to save. And that's my story of 9/11.